Hi everyone! Today I want to share a tip about something I've learned that's really helped me cope with anxious situations, especially when I'm out of the house, and also sometimes to help stave off sensory meltdowns. I've always really loved bringing certain comfort items with me when I leave the house, especially fidget toys or little sensory things I can use that really kind of like focus my attention on one thing. But I would always get really stressed out, especially if I was trying to leave for somewhere quickly or really spontaneously, because I'd have to kind of like hunt through my room to find everything I needed, and I was very particular in what I needed. And once I get anxious, I can't always think about the things I need anymore. It's really hard to focus. And if I'm about to go to an exposure, I tend to be really anxious. So I found what's really helped me is to have a small bag that I already have packed at all times with all of my most commonly needed anxiety or sensory tools. The other thing that's great about this is if I'm in the house and I'm having a panic attack, I can kind of grab it very quickly as well. Like I don't have to go fishing for certain things I might need. Instead, I can just grab this bag and know that everything I need is right there. For this, I also recommend trying to pick a bag that for some reason makes you a little bit happier or calm me down a little bit. My bag that I have is this one that a friend gifted me, and it's pink with sunglasses on it. Even though they're not pink sunglasses, they do make me think of Star Kid, the YouTube theater company, which I will link to below. They make me so happy, and this always makes me think of them right away, which immediately puts me into a better headspace. So right then, that's a great start. I also like this size because it's substantial enough to fit a fair amount inside it, but it's not so big that it's difficult to fit into most of my purses. I'm going to show you everything that's in this bag and tell you why I like to have it, and that way hopefully we'll give you some ideas for things that might work for you for sensory tools, and that way you can decide if something might help you, or maybe it'll trigger something in your head where you're like, oh, I don't need that, but this might work for me. So let's take a look inside. I'm going to link to a lot of these items below too, because I know I had a hard time finding some of these sensory items, so it should be nice and easy if you like the idea of any of these. My first one is, this was recommended to me when I went to my first ever con. I went to NerdCon in Boston, and I was having a massive panic attack, a massive sensory meltdown, and this really sweet person was amazing. She's down next to me, and she's actually what inspired me to get a panic bag, because she had like a panic supply kit with her in her purse, and she was just pulling things out for me immediately to try to calm me down. And this is one of the things she recommended, and I love these, and it's like kind of an anxiety rope thing. So this is like a nice hard smooth plastic, and you can twist it, you can like wrap it around your hand, you can wear it as a bracelet, which I do all the time. If I'm going somewhere, I'll just put it on as a bracelet, then I'll know it's right there, and I can just touch it and feel it. It tends to stay cool, which I really like whenever I get anxious, because I get overheated very fast. And what's nice is it breaks apart, so you can pull it apart and then put it back together, which gives you something to do. And the one I got came with a kit of like 3 different ones, so you can mix them together and make them longer. You can wear them as a necklace. You can make them pretty much as long as you want. I love these. They're great. They're quieter than a lot of other sensory toys, which I like. And I tend to get super fidgety, and I like that this one is pretty flexible. Like you can really move it around a lot of different ways. So this one, it's like a go-to for me now. Plus it makes me think of this person. It reminds me of the fact that like a stranger was willing to help me out and be so kind, and that also puts me in a better headspace and makes me feel, I tend to feel like a baby when I'm having a panic attack, and this kind of stuff reminds me that other people do understand what's going on. Next up, this was also a gift from a friend when I had been going through a lot of hard stuff. She wanted to give me something to remind me that she thinks I'm powerful, so she got me this little Wonder Woman figurine. What I love is that she's a little bit flexible, not super flexible, but just enough that I can kind of move her arms around, I can twist her, I can kind of bend her a little bit, which feels like it's cruel to doing to her, but you know, Diana can take it, she's strong. So this is great if I'm feeling super anxious, kind of way to remind myself that I am strong, I am powerful, while I'm fidgeting and rather intensely twisting a superhero. Next up, this is kind of random. This is actually just a tassel that fell off another bag I have, and it's super soft. And that's why I like this, because when I get very anxious, something really soft and kind of cool can calm me down a little bit. This also works when I'm having a sensory issue, and it's incredibly quiet, obviously. So I love this one because the minute I just like am touching something really soft and fluffy, I just start to calm down a little bit. And it's nice, I can brush it against my face, I can brush it against my hand, I can just like squeeze my fingers right in it, and it's super small. I didn't want to throw it away. I'm like, I love the way this feels. Just gonna throw it in my panic bag. So if there's anything that like you just love the way it feels, no matter what it is, even if it's like a cotton ball or a makeup brush you really like, or an eraser you like the feeling of or something, I recommend that. Just something where it's like a very calming texture for you in particular. It doesn't have to be like strictly like a sensory toy or a panic toy. It can just be something random that you find, or something that's about to get thrown out that you want to save. Next up, Wonder Woman Continues. This was another gift from a friend. It's a Lego figurine of Wonder Woman. And what's great about her is when I get really panicked, sometimes I like start to lose my depth perception. I can't see very well anymore. And also like being in the dark can make me feel very, very overwhelmed. My sensory issues get way more triggered when I'm already anxious. And so if I'm like trying to leave, say like a movie theater and walk out, like sometimes the lights they offer are not enough for me and I may have a hard time seeing the door, seeing the trash can, seeing the aisles or something. And what's great is right here in her torso, you press and her feet turn into a flashlight. So she's wonderful because it's instead of like trying to pull out my phone and get my flashlight to work, which sometimes gets way too complicated for me, I just kind of have to like squeeze Wonder Woman. And it's actually a really pretty intense light, which I like, but not so intense it's likely to like spread out and really annoy everyone around me. I can be very like focused with it. So this is great for that. It's also useful if I want to like look at a book or something and need just a little more light, but don't want to like up the brightness of my phone or something, so I don't want to annoy people around me. She can also be useful for that too. Next up is a pair of sunglasses, and instead of the ones that are really dark, which I mentioned this in my sensory video, I like the ones that kind of a rose gold look to it because, and like a different color may work for you. This color works for me because it doesn't feel like I'm trying to hide the way a dark sunglass may. And I also had some triggering experience when I was younger with like, I got really obsessed about wearing dark sunglasses all the time to try to stop panic attacks. So I'm like, I feel like I'm reverting if I wear them sometimes. But these work for me. It's almost like just putting on an Instagram filter where everything gets really like rosy and pretty and a little more gentle. I do find these kind of cut the glare and the strobe effect from fluorescent lights a little bit and just makes everything less harsh while also making everything really pretty and kind of look optimistic. So I like to keep these around because again, like I said, when I get anxious, my sensory limits go way down and this is a really calming thing. Next up, I love this. I do different scents, but this is my favorite for when I'm really anxious, is a Bath & Body Works Stress Relief Hand Cream. And I love this because it's got a eucalyptus and spearmint scent, which is very strong, and it just does immediately start calming me down, partly because one of the first times I ever like started to do any kind of mental self-care, one of my friends had recommended this, so it kind of reminds me of the first time I bought like body soaps and lotions, particularly just to take care of myself instead of just being cheap, which is all I'd ever done before. So it sends me back to like a good place in time. It reminds me of the first time I tried to take care of myself. They can be expensive. I tend to wait for Bath & Body Works to have sales and coupons, which if you sign up for their emails, they do all the time, and then I'll buy a bunch of these whenever they're on sale. The other thing I like by having a hand cream is when I get very anxious, I can start fidgeting to the point of self-harming. I'll start scratching up my hand. I'll literally try to break my fingers very, very often. I'll scratch at my arms. And if I put on especially a little too much hand cream, it takes forever to rub in. I have to be really kind of aggressive with it. And it gives me something physical to do that's not harming my body. Like it gives me enough lotion, it gives me enough lubrication that I won't rub myself raw, but it also lets me do something and put that energy somewhere, but then it results in like my skin and my hands being healthier and feeling better, as opposed to then I hate coming out of a panic attack and seeing that I'm bleeding and injured. And this instead, it's like, oh, my hands are soft now. And even once I'm done with that, sometimes I'll just sit and put my hand up under my nose and just kind of slowly breathe in the scent for a while. That really calms me down a lot. It's kind of funny because sometimes it'll also like make my friends around me happy. They'll be like, you smell amazing. All of a sudden, like, what is that? And I'm like, hi, I'm freaking out. I try to make it pretty. Similar, I also get a Bath & Body Works hand sanitizer, but then what I did is I bought from Etsy the patterns to some Harry Potter labels for this, so it makes them look like potion bottles. So I get really happy because I feel like I'm putting a potion on myself. I did the truth serum from Harry Potter so that if I feel like I'm too scared to tell somebody what's going on or what's happening or admit to myself what's going on, I can put on the truth potion and then I feel a little more motivated to do it. And yes, I know that's silly, but you know, we do what we have to. And this is also great because like you can get scents again that calm you down or make you feel a little more alert or whatever you need. Like if you want something that's like grapefruit and citrus and really perks you up, if you want something that's like rain and really calming, or something that smells like Christmas or Halloween, like stock up over a holiday and save them throughout the year. Like who says you can't use a Christmas one in August? You know what I mean? And this is also good because if my OCD gets triggered, it's nice to be able to put on some hand sanitizer and kind of feel clean and feel a little more relaxed, because a lot of times if I'm panicking, I'm going to sit on the floor, I'm going to touch things that are not very clean, because I'll be trying to touch anything to kind of ground myself. Like, I'm not going to be paying attention where I'm at. And so when I come out of that, it's kind of nice to sanitize a little bit and not worry that, you know, I just have my hands on a hospital floor, which is something that's happened before. I just sat on a dirty hospital floor because I couldn't handle sitting up, and this makes it a little more bearable. I also keep a thermometer with me in my stress bag, because when I panic, I tend to really overheat. And then my anxiety will spiral even more, because I'll be convinced I have a fever, which is a huge trigger for me. So if I take my temperature and see that I like don't have a fever, that can calm me down, like the way this is just wobbling. The other thing that's helpful, is a big trigger for me, is a lot of times I'll think I have heat stroke when I'm outside. I had heat exhaustion when I was younger, and it feels so similar to panic attacks, and my sensory issues mean that I cannot tolerate the heat like at all. So I always think, oh no, I have heat stroke, this is terrible, I'm dying, I can't tell if this is panic or is it heat stroke. So a lot of times, like, I'll take my temperature, because there's a certain temperature you have to hit for it to be heat stroke. And if I'm not there, I know I'm probably okay. So it also calms me down with that. Next up, I always keep a pair of headphones with me. I just have some of the Apple ones, and they're all tangled right now. I try not to have them that tangled, but I keep these with me so that if I need to put on a video or just something to kind of like get really out of the moment. This is especially if I'm like at a concert or something and then I have to leave, then I can go sit outside and put on a YouTube video or listen to some music or listen to my meditation app, something like that. I really like having these around because it's a good way to just kind of get some escapism from the world. If I also need to escape sound-wise, like if I really need to like just completely leave, this is very helpful. It's also helpful if I need to call somebody and I don't want to like hold my phone up because I'm too anxious. A lot of times I can't do that, but I want to be rude and have it on speaker, so headphones are kind of an easier mix. And on a similar note, I always keep my adapter so I can use my Apple headphones with my current iPhone because, you know, the headphone jack thing. So this way I'll know that I don't have to like have the right pair of headphones with me. I can just have this. This is honestly probably my biggest sensory and panic tool is a deck of cards. I have so many decks of cards. This one I adore because it's a Harry Potter one, but it's the illustrations from the original books, which are my most comforting Harry Potter images for sure. And the reason I love a deck of cards is if I'm really losing it and not grounded at all, just playing with the deck of cards can really, really help me. It's a great way. It's just physical enough to kind of snap me back. Usually what I'll do is I will sit and I'll first organize the cards. I'll put them all by suit. And then after that, I'll put them in order from ace to king. And that, a lot of times by the time I've done that, my panic will calm down. If it hasn't, then I'll normally go into solitaire. I also play one-handed solitaire if I'm like sitting in a movie theater or something and freaking out. It's a very quiet, like non-invasive thing to do that calms me down. And if I'm getting super scared, I have to connect with somebody else, I'll play a game of war with somebody or play a game of Go Fish, something like that. Sometimes I'll also work on magic tricks or something like that because that will really engage a lot of my mind, and like pretending I'm doing magic will calm me down too. So I really recommend these if you need something that's like very physical, because like just like that, like very intensely and mindfully like slapping down the card and feeling kind of the click of it really calms me down. I don't know why I find them so settling, but I do. I noticed my therapist has a couple pack of cards in her office too, so I feel like I'm not the only person this works with. But if you haven't tried it, I really, really recommend getting a pack of cards. And again, they're great because they come in so many different styles. You can get one that really works for you. I have some Christmas ones, I have Avengers ones and Star Wars ones and more Harry Potter ones. So I have Firefly cards, so like you can find them for almost anything you're passionate about. You can get ones with cats on it or like weather scenes you like whatever. So it's also a nice thing to do to really personalize it for what you may need to be comforted by. This is something I grabbed. I actually went to the Yankee Candle Factory with some friends and I started to get really overstimulated because it was very busy, very big, and it was going to take like ages to get out of the building because I was like in the center of the building, and it's huge. If you've ever been there, it's like massive. And we were back in the toy section, and I saw they had like a whole bin of marbles, and I used to love, my great grandmother had marbles I would play with. And when I started playing with them, I really calmed down, and I love the different textures and how cool they were and the sound they made. So I bought myself a bag of marbles, and I kind of just walked around, and similar to like using like meditation balls or something like that, you can kind of like just move them in your palm back and forth. I like having the different sizes. Some of them I have are kind of rough, and that texture can also be nice. And just something about the sound really calms me down. Oh, and it comes in this nice little pouch. So I just keep some marbles with me, and that is one I didn't think of as being a useful thing for me, but I really like smooth textures, I like cool textures, I like that very calm, almost water sound from them. So to me, these really calm me down, and they're just weighted enough to kind of ground me back in reality again. Next up is this fidget cube I have, and what's great about it is there's a bunch of different things. It has like kind of this joystick thing you can move around, just little buttons to press that do clicking sounds. It has this one here that you can kind of just spin over and over again, which is nice. And something that you just set your thumb on. Lots of little knobs, like all different kinds of things. And this is great if I kind of don't know what I need. It's nice because it fits like in one hand. It's relatively loud, but not like insanely loud. Like if I'm waiting in line somewhere, there's probably enough people talking that people aren't really going to hear this. It's about like a ballpoint pen clicking. But it's nice too because you can kind of go back and forth between a bunch of different things until you find what works. This tends to work for me when I'm just so frantic that I don't know what's going to help me. Sometimes it does overstimulate me. Like sometimes there's too many options. If I'm holding it, I'm like, nope, I can't. Also, sometimes I can't handle the color black when I'm anxious for some reason. It just feels too like severe and solemn and I can't handle it. But if I'm able to tolerate the color and if I'm not quick to be overstimulated by options, this is a good one. I usually keep a couple of Pepto with me or something else like some kind of antacid or something like that because I do so often get stomach aches or digestive issues, or I'll even throw up from a panic attack, and this can kind of calm it down a little bit. Similar, I'll keep some Advil or Tylenol or some kind of painkiller with me because I can get headaches or eye strain or body aches or just frankly hurt myself while I'm having a panic attack, so this can also help with that. This that I have, unfortunately, is not still available. I kind of wish this was permanently available. It's so great, but Felicia Day, for a limited edition, she was selling this anti-anxiety dye that's like, you know, playing with role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, which also makes me happy. But what it has is it has symbols on here and each correlate to a different coping method to use with a panic attack, whether or not it's like really nurturing yourself or repeating what's making you anxious over and over again in a robotic voice, or dumping all your feelings onto somebody, or playing a game of chicken with your anxiety. So if I don't know how to handle my panic attack, I'll roll the die and do what it tells me to do. And funnily enough, this has helped me through some panic attacks I thought I didn't get through because I had no grounding and no one was home with me. A lot of times when I'm having a bad panic attack, I kind of need to connect with somebody else to feel safe and to feel real. I just get so far gone in my head that I can't like connect with the world anymore unless there's someone else there. And this has helped with that a lot. I think it feels like almost an external thing telling me what to do, so it helps with that. And it does remind me of coping options that I will forget about. Because again, when I'm having a panic attack, I will sometimes just spiral and pretty much forget about everything I've ever been told in therapy, everything I've ever learned that's helped me. I will just completely forget. And if one of those are the options that pull up, I'm like, oh, cool, this is great. I also put a note in my phone that lists what each method is with each symbol. Because sometimes if I get anxious, I'm like, I have no idea what the chicken means. What does that mean? So I'll just double check and see what it is. But this was so great. It might be something you even consider making for yourself since she doesn't sell anymore. Even if you take a normal die and put like a red dot on one side, a pink dot on another, and know each dot correlates to a different coping strategy. I found it super helpful. Something like that may help you too. And the last thing I keep in my panic supply bag is just a fidget spinner. And I know these aren't quite as trendy as they were a couple years ago, which is kind of a shame because they're not as easy to find. Like I was finding them literally everywhere for a while. Like I couldn't turn around without finding a fidget spinner. But these are great because something, I don't know, something about the balance is so calming, and it's just nice to watch it spin, and it's like something to get distracted by for a few minutes. All right, so that is everything in my panic bag. I do have a couple other things I tend to bring with me a lot of times, especially if I know I'm going somewhere for a long period or somewhere that's really potentially triggering. I'll bring my DS with me, or I'll bring my Switch with me. There's certain apps I keep on my phone. I'll go through all that kind of stuff in another video too, but for right now, I think this is a great thing to do, just to have a pre-packed bag that you can either have like a friend grab for you if you're getting anxious, you can grab yourself, you can bring with you anywhere at all. And it's nice to know it's all in one place. And that way you don't have to remember the things you need. You don't have to figure out where it's at or wonder if they're all where you left them or anything like that. Instead, it's all in one place. I tend to lose these things a lot and it would really stress me out. And this way I'm like, okay, I know it's in this bag, and that makes me feel so much more secure. All right, that's it for this video. I'll be back later this week with another video and back next week with another mental health video. Until then, be well, be happy, and try to stay calm. And if you can't stay calm, at least have Harry Potter playing cards. I swear it makes it better.